That day, he wasn't expecting to find anything. It was just another quiet hike, with cold air and an empty valley. Nothing unusual, until he noticed something strange. It smelled like something was burning, but there was no fire and no smoke. There was nothing but that smell. He stopped and looked around. That's when he saw it. A body lying in the middle of the valley. It was completely burned. The face was unrecognizable, and the body was twisted in an unnatural way. But something about it felt wrong. There was no source of fire, no tools, and no trace of how it happened. And around her, there were objects scattered across the ground. Shoes, clothes, and a bag. There were far too many of them, almost as if someone had placed them there on purpose. This happened in 1970, in Norway, a place called Isdal Valley. On November 29th, two hikers were walking through the valley. It was colder than usual, the kind of cold that makes everything feel still. Then one of them suddenly stopped. He asked, "Do you smell that?" It was the same smell, but this time it felt stronger. There were still no flames and no smoke, only that smell. They looked at each other. Something didn't feel right. Without saying much, they decided to follow it. Step by step, they moved deeper into the valley, and then they froze. They found a body. It was burned, lying in an unnatural position, and around it, there were far too many objects. In that moment, they both knew something was wrong. This was not an accident. The police arrived quickly. But from the very beginning, something about the scene felt wrong. It wasn't just the body. The entire area felt deliberate, almost as if it had been arranged. The autopsy did not bring answers. Instead, it made things even more confusing. A large amount of sleeping pills was found in her system. It was enough to make someone completely unconscious. This raised an important question. If she was already unconscious, why was the body burned? There were also internal injuries, damage that simply didn't make sense. There were no clear signs of murder, and no clear signs of suicide. Nothing fully explained what had actually happened. Then one detail stood out: her teeth. They had been treated with high-level dental work. Even for that time, this was unusual, which led investigators to wonder, who was she, really? Everything about her had been removed. Her clothes had no labels, as if they had been intentionally cut out. Her belongings had no clear origin. There was no name, no identity, nothing to trace back. That was when a strange idea began to spread. Some people believed this was not random. They believed someone had erased her, not just killed her, but completely removed her existence, as if she had never existed at all. Among her belongings, a note was found. It contained numbers and symbols, possibly some kind of code. Some believed it recorded her movements. Others believed it meant something else entirely. But even now, no one has been able to fully understand it. Then the investigation took a different direction. It led to several hotels, and everything started to change. Because she was not just one person. She had multiple identities, different names, different nationalities, and different professions. But there was always the same pattern. She paid in cash. She stayed for a short time, and she left quietly, without leaving any trace. Hotel staff later said they remembered her clearly, not because she caused trouble, but because something about her felt unusual. One of them said, She behaved like someone who didn't want to be remembered. She never opened the curtains, not even once. Day or night, they were always closed. She checked the windows again and again, as if she believed someone might be watching her. She even placed a chair against the door, so she would know if anyone tried to come in. At first, this seemed like a simple habit, but later investigators began to see it differently. This was not routine behavior. This was fear. And not just ordinary fear, but the kind of fear that comes from being followed. Some people believe she was not hiding. They believe she was running. She spoke several languages: German, French, English, and Norwegian. However, none of them were completely fluent. There was no clear accent and no clear origin. People who spoke with her said they could not identify where she was from. It felt as if she did not belong anywhere. Or perhaps she belonged somewhere she was trying to hide. On November 23rd, she left the hotel. After that, there was no record of her. For 6 days, she completely disappeared. There were no sightings, and no trace of where she had been. Then, on November 29th, she was found dead. Those 6 days remain unexplained. Some people believe whatever happened during that time is the key to understanding everything. There was one witness. On November 24th, a man was hiking in the area. He saw her. She was wearing a black coat and looked well dressed. Behind her were 2 men. They appeared to be foreigners. Something about the situation felt wrong. Her expression was full of fear. She looked directly at him. Their eyes met. And in that moment, he felt something. It seemed like she was asking for help. Her lips moved slowly, as if she was trying to say something, but no sound came out. Then she turned away, looked back at the men behind her, and continued walking. A few days later, he saw her face again. On the news. The most widely accepted theory is that she was a spy. Many details seem to support this idea. Multiple identities, multiple languages, cash payments, and coded notes. This happened during the Cold War. At that time, spy activity was common. Some people believe she visited military sites and gathered information, and that something must have gone wrong. However, others believe this explanation is too simple, because there are still too many unanswered questions. Another possibility is that she was running from someone or from something. She may have been living a hidden life, a life that had to be erased. Some believe she was trying to disappear. Others believe someone made sure she did. But no theory can fully explain everything. In the end, no one came forward. There was no family, no friends, and no name. She was buried as an unknown person. And that might be the strangest part of all, because someone like her should have had a name. So who was she? And what really happened during those 6 days? If you have heard another version of this story, leave it in the comments, because what we know might not be the full story. Some people even believe she was never meant to be found at all. And maybe she still hasn't been. Mysteries continue. Want to hear more? Follow. Some stories never end.